All right, we are live. Welcome back to Fit Body Secrets, where my mission is to bring you guys motivation, inspiration, and a ton of tips to help you guys on your fitness journey. And honestly, I should probably be adding to that education as well. And that's what today's episode is all about. I actually wanted to start this episode with something funny. Guys, if you watch me on YouTube, I don't really like watching myself. So I really hardly ever watch my podcast after I record them. And I just happen to be looking for one to send to one of my clients. And I recognize, and I think Dave Castro said this, is like, you don't know where to look. Like, should I be looking at the camera, like the little button on my Mac? Should I be looking at myself? It's just, there's so many things that I should be, whatever. So sometimes I wonder if people are judging me that my eyes are like looking all around because I honestly just don't even know what I should be looking at. And oftentimes I'm looking at myself or I'm looking at the comments or I'm looking at my show notes. So just a little funny intro to today's episode, which actually was something that I've been wanting to record an episode on for a long time and talk about it a little bit. And last week in my check-in with Scott, a couple of people had brought up the carnivore diet. And it seems like since then, I have just been seeing it like everywhere on my social media. Somebody tagging hashtag carnivore diet with like a photo of like a big piece of steak on their plate. And so it just got me really wanting to discuss a little bit about my thoughts on the diet in particular, and whether or not it is something that would be applicable to you in your own journey with your own goals, and maybe a different way to look at the benefits of something so extreme as the carnivore diet. But a couple of things before we get into today's episode. Number one, first and foremost, I have to do a better job of asking for this. If you get any value out of today's episode and you are watching on YouTube or you are watching on my or listening on my Apple Podcasts, please like, subscribe, share, do your due diligence to help me spread the good word. That's how I actually get more people to listen and find me. So if you can give me a review on Apple Podcasts, that would be a bonus. Maybe I'll start giving out some prizes if I see people actually doing that. But again, I'm kind of bad about tracking those kinds of metrics, but I've been told that those things matter. At the end of the day, I am on this earth for one reason. I want to coach people, and all of this other stuff in the business, the growth and all that, not really my thing. So if y'all could help me out with that, that'd be awesome. Part two that I'm going to ask for beforehand is actually not an ask, but a tell and an invite. Next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I am hosting a 3-day workshop. Didn't know what else to title it aside from CrossFit Nutrition, because a lot of the people that follow me do CrossFit and just don't really know what matters most when it comes to nutrition, especially in regards to their specific goals. And I want to start by saying this, something that I'm really where I'm at in my own journey and my own life and what I want for my clients is my approach to nutrition is not about getting my clients or you as lean and as shredded as absolutely possible. My goal is to get my community to feel comfortable and confident in their skin, get them at a weight that they feel is maintainable for them, but they feel good in their sport, they feel good in their workouts, they like how they look in a bathing suit, whatever. But honestly, I'm not looking for extremes. But with my or my approach to CrossFitters, you might find that there's some things that you might be missing in your nutrition that are holding you back from getting to those goals. And so I'm going to be going over all the basics that you need to understand how to get the most out of your CrossFit workouts, how to make progress on your fat loss goals, your performance goals, whatever those goals are. And it is a 3-day workshop. And the really cool thing about this workshop is the way I've broken it down is every single day, you guys are going to have something specific to do, an action step to take that day. So at the end of the 3 days, you will already be 3 days into making the changes that you need to be consistent with making the changes that you want to see physically and obviously the way you feel. Well, I guess it is also physically. So if you want in on that workshop, it is next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Even if you can't be there live, I am going to be having the replay available for limited time access. So sign up. I think I forgot to put that in the show notes, but I'll make sure that I add it. And if you are not already signed up and I don't, and you want to get signed up, just send me a DM at Cheryl Nasso. You can see that here if you're on YouTube or if you're listening on podcasts. You can also see it in the show notes. I always put my contact information there. So, two things. You're going to like this. You're going to subscribe so you can get notifications when I have new episodes coming out. And you're going to sign up for the CrossFit Nutrition Workshop. Now, we're going to get into talking a little bit about the carnivore diet. And I made a post today about extreme diets, and I feel like carnivore is kind of like the new paleo, um, or the new keto. I feel like even the people that talk about the diet, it's like I almost sense a level of what I would like to use the term snobbery. And I used to be like that with paleo. Like, oh, I eat paleo. I only eat paleo. It was very like that. And like you can see people when they post, it's like they've got this like hashtag carnivore, like this is the way of life. And it's very like, I don't want to call it almost intimidating, but it makes you feel like, oh, they got this like serious like diet going. They're like, man, maybe I should try that. It's like I don't know how to describe it, but I just get this vibe from people that are following these types of diets. And it's just carnivore is like I think it's the new paleo. I'm gonna open up my comments because I don't want to miss you guys. Welcome, Corey, Elise, and Kenneth, if you guys are still on here, and anybody else that is watching. But let's talk about the carnivore diet. So, first and foremost, what is the carnivore diet? Well, essentially, you are eating nothing but meat. Everything is animal based products. And essentially, the purist even are eliminating a lot of the seasonings and dressings and anything. No coffee, no alcohol, no wine, no fruit, no vegetables, no nothing. You are literally living on animal protein only. Even the purest of carnivore diet don't even incorporate things like oils or like unless they literally only cook with like beef fat or tallow, things like that. They eliminate anything that's not animal based. And there are, I guess, what you would like to call, actually I have the word, let me just pull it up. They call it the relaxed carnivore will also allow themselves meat plus maybe some avocado, some fruit, avocado oil, olive oil, and some have even done like carnivore plus fruit. It's essentially a zero carb diet. So the only thing you are consuming is just animal based protein. Yes, Corey, no coffee. And that's literally, and these people that are doing it, they're like hashtag carnivore. And a lot of the claims you are basically hearing are like, so there's two main people that I was, when I was doing some research on the diet that speak very passionately about the benefits of it. Sean Baker is one of them, and Paul Saladino is another doctor. They're both doctors, and they have either used this in their own journey or they have been using it with their patients or whatever. And some of the claims that you're going to hear are, and I just pulled this up, it says it can help treat with like depression, anxiety, arthritis, obesity, diabetes, and more. However, this is very important for everybody to understand. There are no controlled studies that have been conducted outside of the ones that these specific doctors have done to suggest that these benefits are actually valid from the diet. And I'm going to talk to you what I mean by that in a little bit because correlation is not always causation. Okay. So they're claiming that all of these things are benefits of following the carnivore diet. So if you're somebody out there and you're like, man, I have depression, I have anxiety, I'm overweight, I have diabetes, it can seem like this diet might be the solution to those things. And it could be for you. And I'll explain why in a little bit. But again, there are no studies that have been able to show that this diet in particular has actually been the reason why these people have had clear changes in those symptoms or improvements in those symptoms. Okay. So, what I want to talk about a little bit now as I'm going into the carnivore diet is where I see pros and cons to a dietary protocol like this. Nick, I agree with you. CrossFit is a solution to all things, but I do think that the nutrition aspect of CrossFit needs some help. And that's why I am doing a CrossFit nutrition workshop. You should join it. Okay. Anyways, and Corey, I love that. I love that you even put the gram amount of how much rice you're going to be smashing right now. Okay. So now going back into the pros and cons of the carnivore diet. Okay. So let's talk about the pros, the good things, the benefits that could come from following a carnivore diet. Because as I said, I want to put out an unbiased opinion on the carnivore diet and explain to you guys why I don't think it's necessary. But what if you are somebody out there that is interested in following this, what benefits you might see? Okay, so the benefits of following a carnivore diet are this: you are eliminating the foods that are high calorie and hyper palatable, such as refined carbohydrates and sugar, and you are consuming animal based protein. Okay, so essentially, you've removed all the shit from your diet and you filled it with one of the most nutrient dense things you can consume. So the benefit is right there. I have none of these foods that I typically overeat, and all I'm eating is a very nutrient rich food, because most of the people on carnivore are also very specific about the type of protein they're getting. They're getting a lot of grass fed beef, they're getting a lot of eggs, they're getting a lot of really nutrient dense sources of protein. Okay. That's the only benefit. Removing all of the processed, highly refined carbohydrates and sugar and including more animal based protein. Okay. You can do that without following the carnivore diet. We're going to go into that later. First, I want to talk about some of the cons of the carnivore diet. And some of these things have, I would like to say, controversial discussions on. And so, for instance, you're eliminating, one of the cons is you've eliminated a large source of nutrients in your diet. Okay, so fruits and vegetables do have a lot of nutrients in them. Plants. So on the other end of carnivore, you've got the plant-based eaters that are telling you that plant-based is the way to go, right? So you're eliminating all of those plant-based nutrients that you're used to consuming, along with fiber, which can be really important for gut health and heart health and a lot of other things, hormone health. And a lot of the carnivore purists say that you don't need fiber. Well, that might be true if you're only consuming animal based protein, but it doesn't mean that fiber is not helpful. And another con of the carnivore diet is it is extremely high in saturated fat. And saturated fats is something that there is a lot of conflicting studies on, meaning they don't have a really clear cut there's not a real clear cut study to say whether or not highly saturated or diets high in saturated fats do cause heart conditions or worsen heart conditions. There's a lot of studies that are like kind of back and forth. So the general consensus is at this point, we want to limit our saturated fat contents, but the carnivore diet is extremely high in saturated fats. Another downside of the carnivore diet is it actually could lead to more gut inflammation depending on how many calories you are consuming or need to consume, because you are getting so much animal-based protein. And we're going to talk poop for a second. Y'all know when you eat too much protein, you're literally in the bathroom or you're super constipated, one of the two. You know how protein affects your gut. In fact, a lot of my clients that before they come to me, if they're eating a very low protein diet, they end up feeling like that's one of their first complaints the first couple weeks. It's like, my digestion is all off. They either have diarrhea or they're not going to the bathroom at all because protein is a little rough on the gut. Okay. So definitely want to know that there's going to be some digestive stuff. Another one, and this is a big one, it is extremely restrictive. Okay, so if you are somebody, and we can talk about application here, okay? If you are somebody that has been a yo-yo dieter for your entire life, and you've literally diet hopped from the different trends, so from like paleo to, well, before paleo, let's go back when Weight Watchers was a thing, and then there was like the South Beach diet, and then there was like the Zone diet, and then there was the paleo diet, and there was the keto diet, there was Atkins diet. There's all these different diets. If you're just jumping around from diet to diet, You are literally just putting one more diet rule in your head and causing more emotional and mental damage to your relationship with food and to yourself. Okay, so recognize that following these extreme diets is only worsening your relationship with food. So, when it comes to pros and cons, I just listed quite a few cons with one pro. You're eating more rich food, and you're eating less of the shit food. So that's your only pro to this diet. Okay. I guess the other pro to the diet, pro or benefit of the diet is if you don't want to have to worry about choosing something to eat, you can literally find a beef patty pretty much anywhere. So like I guess it makes it convenient for you, but I also feel like this was the problem with keto, is I had clients coming to me that were literally going through Burger King drive-through, grabbing a Whopper with no bun, and that was their diet. Like, that just is not a healthy way to live. So, people bastardize diets as well and cherry pick what they're taking from them. So, I guess another pro is that it does make it easy for you to choose something to eat because you don't really have many choices. You're either going to get protein or you're not going to get anything. So that's the other pro to it. Let's talk about who, if anybody, would be a person that would benefit from this diet. But first, I want to just look at Corey's question. We've discussed the pros, but what about the bros of the diet? That's pretty funny. Well, and another con I would agree is Nick is money. Yeah, literally. Could you imagine how much you must be spending? Okay, so like let's just think about it this way: a pound of grass-fed ground beef, 80/20, it's going to run you about $10, and that's going to be about what's that? 3, 6, 9, 12, maybe 1,200 calories. So I guess it wouldn't be that expensive. You're probably going to be eating a woman maybe 1.5 pounds of beef a day, a man, maybe two, so I guess it's not that expensive, but whatever. We're just gonna leave it at that. All right. Who is this diet actually beneficial for? There's two populations that I feel like could benefit from this diet if you are truly interested in applying it. Just give me 1 second. Okay. All right. I'm sitting on a heating pad, guys, because my butt is really sore from on my gains train. My legs and my quads and my butt are so sore. So I'm sitting on a heating pad and I felt like it turned off for a second. Oh, all right. Just sharing y'all my own personal story. Okay. So who is this diet good for? Two people. If you are somebody that really loves eating meat and you don't feel the need to eat other foods and you would like to try and experiment with eating an animal-based diet as a lifestyle, I think that this would be something that you could entertain. I think that there should be a period where you go from being pure carnivore to the reintroduction of some of the things that you want to include on a regular basis and watch out for the quote unquote cheat meal mindset, which I think that anybody that's done paleo would also, um, you know, attest to being a problem, is that like you wouldn't eat these foods and then suddenly you'd get a hold of them and it was like, yeah, I'm carnivore, but 3 days a week I'm literally smashing a pizza and some wing, and it just, well, wings are still carnivore, but you know what I'm saying? Well, technically not, because if you're being a purist and you eat out, they're using soybean oil. So couldn't even do that. Um, you know, Something else I want to side tangent and mention is um, a lot of people talk about cancer, the risk of cancer with proteins. And again, I just mentioned this because a lot of people that are anti-carnivore are like, "Oh my God, meat causes cancer." And that's also something that there is a lot of conflicting studies on. And what they are finding is there is a different thing that is related to protein that could actually cause cancer, and that is how you cook it. So, exposure to smoke or charring or burning your meat it does expose you to carcinogens. And so, when it comes to the whole meat causes cancer thing, likely not. But if you are exposing yourself to a lot of burnt ass protein, you are exposing yourself to carcinogens. So, rule of thumb there is don't burn your meat. That could have just just sparked a whole conversation in the show notes or in the comments, I'm sure. But yeah. So anyway, so one person that could benefit is the people that are just looking to live an animal-based lifestyle. They don't want to eat any carbohydrates. They don't miss them. They don't like them. They would just rather eat a piece of chicken breast for breakfast and a steak for lunch and some fish for dinner or whatever that looks like to them. So the other person that might be able to benefit from a carnivore diet is if you are looking to do a strict elimination diet. So let's just say you have some kind of an autoimmune condition, you have maybe like some gut dysbiosis, you have something that a doctor has recommended that you possibly do an elimination diet. I do think that the carnivore diet temporarily might be a really easy way for you to stick to maybe one or two different protein sources and just try and figure out what trigger foods might be causing. Again, not necessary, but this would be a very easy way to do an elimination diet. And the goal then would be to reintroduce one or two foods a week and see how your body does with those foods to kind of see how things would obviously change. Now, before I kind of go into some more details on this and what you need to know is if you are looking to use the carnivore diet as a weight loss or a fat loss strategy, I don't think this is the right way to do things. And here's why. Most of the people that are looking for it from a weight loss or a fat loss perspective are looking at it from a temporary standpoint. They are looking to lose weight. And that's where I don't think that the weight that they lose will be sustainable. And this is the problem with things like keto and low carb and all that stuff is people are like, man, I'm going to do this diet, then I'll get back to living my life. And it just doesn't work that way. You're better off if you know that you're going to be reintroducing foods anyways, you're better off building a nutrition plan that includes those foods the right way. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that because I don't want you guys to think that I'm not, you know, well, we'll talk about flexible dieting in a second. So, but yeah, I don't think that this should be the goal really is if you're doing the carnivore diet, it should be because you really want to just eat animal based or you have some kind of an autoimmune and you are looking to maybe find if there are some trigger foods and this diet might eliminate all those things and then you can kind of add some things back in and see what your body responds to. So, that's just what I wanted you guys to know about that. Now, here's what you need to know about the carnivore diet as we're like finishing this episode up. I'm kind of going to recap things. Okay. Number one, as I had already mentioned, there has not been any studies that prove the effectiveness of the carnivore diet. Okay. So correlation is not always causation. If I eliminate all of the processed carbohydrates and shit food, okay, and I'm only eating animal protein, guess what? It's very hard for me to overconsume calories. It's very easy for me to lose weight if I'm doing that. Now, you can understand there that you don't have to go carnivore in order to do that, but that might make things easy. But I also think that some people can even gain weight following a carnivore diet. I followed a paleo diet for years and I was gaining weight because I was like over consuming things like bacon, sausage, nuts, and dried fruit. Like my diet was like, oh, it's paleo. Cool. I can eat this. And a lot of people, if you have an appetite, can do that. If you're somebody that's doing CrossFit or and you care about your performance, the carnivore diet is not going to fuel you glycolytically. And so do I think that so your body can convert protein to energy? There is a process they can do to do that, but it's a lot harder on the body and it's not necessary. Again, it's not, we're doing more than we have to. And this is what really got the debate going last week in my episode with Scott is somebody brought it up and it's like, why would you go to a more extreme diet if the diet you're consuming is working? If it's enjoyable, it's maintainable for you, why would we go to a more extreme? Okay. So again, no studies have been shown and correlation isn't always causation. The main benefits from the diet come from the inclusion of more animal-based protein with the removal of a lot of those refined carbohydrates and sugar. You don't need to follow a carnivore diet in order to do those things, but If a carnivore diet helps you do that in an easy way, then go for it if that's the way you want to do things. However, you have to understand that calories do still matter. So you're going to want to know how many calories you're taking in, which I think is another problem with the carnivore diet. Why people might try it and have a hard time is they're likely significantly under eating and they're going to find themselves ravenous. Although protein is very satiating, so maybe it doesn't happen as quickly. Okay. So that's the main thing. What's more important is if we know the benefits of the carnivore diet come from the inclusion of more protein and the removal of more refined sugar, carbohydrates, and alcohol, because let's just be real, guys, alcohol is a big one. Alcohol, in fact, I had a client whose weight has literally been up and down, up and down. He'll lose 5 pounds, he'll gain three. He'll lose 3 pounds, he'll gain two. It's just every weekend. And for Lent, he gave up alcohol. And since Lent, nothing has changed in his nutrition, but his weight's just going down, 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 down. And I'm like, this is what people don't understand about alcohol. Okay, so why not learn how to do things in a more moderate way? Moderation is so hard for people. It's crazy that people would much rather go into extremes than learn how to moderate. And moderation is life. Life is all about, like, it's not about balance, but things balance out. Like, we can't always be balanced. Like when you're at work, you can't be thinking about sipping a drink on a beach somewhere, right? You're like working. But on your weekends, you're not thinking about work either. So things balance out. So the main thing here is that you guys have to understand that you don't have to go to an extreme diet in order to get healthy, in order to fix your blood biomarkers, in order to remove inflammation. All of the benefits from this diet come from the inclusion of more animal-based protein and the removal of those things. So, why not learn a more balanced approach? Okay, so here's my opinion on what nutrition should look like. If you want to know my philosophy, and I think that you can pull from a lot of diets. You can pull from keto, you can pull from, whole 30, you can pull from low fat, low carb. You can pull anything from everywhere. But these are the things you guys have to understand because these principles apply to any diet, okay? Calories matter. It doesn't matter what diet you follow. Doesn't matter if you're fat burning or carb burning. Calories matter most. Okay, so you've got to control your calorie intake. If you're trying to lose weight, you got to control your calories. If you're trying to get better in the gym and you're trying to maximize muscle growth, you've got to maximize your calories. If you're dealing with a bunch of fucked up shit with your hormones, you probably should be eating more calories. Like there's a lot of stuff going on that you guys have to understand. Calories matter. Okay. Macronutrients matter. Protein, carbs, and fats. Everybody has a unique need for different carbs and fats. Protein's pretty much universal for everybody. Somewhere between 0.8 and 1 gram per pound of body weight or goal body weight is a great place to optimize your protein. Okay, that doesn't change. And even with carnivore, that's all you need. All right. The carbs and the fats, that's personal preference as long as calories are controlled. Now, I do think that training modality does play a factor. Some people are going to thrive on about 45 to 50% carbohydrates and 20 to 25% fats, and then obviously their protein. Some people want to be a little bit more, 35 carbs and fats. You have to know what works best for you to look, feel, and just be your best person. Like live your best life. Okay. Food quality, how we fill those macronutrients does matter. All right. So I don't believe in if it fits your macros. You should not be eating Pop Tarts for breakfast, donuts for a snack, pizza for dinner, and then shoving down protein shakes to get your protein intake in. Your plates should be balanced. You should have some veggies on there, some fruits, some protein, and some complex carbohydrates, some whole grains, some rice, some sweet potatoes, some whole grain pasta, whole grain breads. All those things are fine. All right. So that's nutrition in a nutshell. I also think that fiber and water need to be looked at. All right. So that's your nutrition philosophy in a nutshell. And regardless of what diet you follow, like you have to understand that macronutrients and calories are a part of them. There's no reason to completely eliminate specific macronutrient groups. Our body wasn't designed that way. And a lot of the people on the carnivore diet will say, well, our hunter gatherers, they were. No, they weren't. Like Yes, did they eat animal protein? That's all they had was animal protein, but they also ate nuts and seeds and berries and things that were growing from the ground. So we were always omnivores. So don't avoid that stuff. And that's why I do think that honestly, paleo is a great foundation for a diet because it does really teach you guys to both focus on like the proteins and the proteins and the veggies, but don't be afraid to include some of those other things. Now, if there's foods that you're sensitive to that don't set well in your gut, then don't eat those foods. But I don't think that eliminating foods is actually necessary. So, my thoughts on the carnivore diet is if you want to do it for an experiment to remove things and see if elimination diet is what you need, or you want to live a lifestyle that's just hashtag carnivore, go for it. But thinking that your diet is superior to others and thinking that your diet is effective at like doing all of those things, making you less depressed, anxious, has nothing to do with the diet and everything to do with the two things I mentioned. You're eating more nutrient dense protein, you're eating none of the shit food. So that's what I got today. I'm gonna hop over to the comments now because I was trying to focus. Nick knows me. Nick knows when I start to get distracted because he said something. He said, don't pay attention to the comments. So now I'm going back to the comments where Nick said, stay composed, Cheryl. He knows. Y'all know when I start to look at the comments, it's hard. It's hard for me to stay focused on what I'm talking about because I want to jump in and have a conversation. I feel like I should have a call-in number. Corey, I love what you said. Anything worth doing is worth overdoing. Moderation is for cowards. That's hilarious. It's so funny. It's just so funny. And if you're a CrossFit, you are an extremist. Like we all, as CrossFitters, we are all like always all in or all out. It's just the way it is. It's why CrossFitters are crazy and we redo workouts for the open scores. I have heard of the blood type diet. And again, just one more thing that I could just debunk. It's just so dumb. Like, let's just talk about the blood type diet for a second and these types of diets. Like, it started getting me thinking that people could go as far as being like, diet for blondes, diets for brunettes. These are the foods that brunettes should be eating. It's like, come on, people. Like, our bodies are not that complex. You just really can't. Calorie lives matter. That was funny. I'm just looking back at the notes to see if I missed anything funny. Oh, man. All right. Well, that's what I got for today. I'm just looking to see if I missed any questions aside from all of the funny comments I see here. This was a good one. Now we're talking about Selena and Justin Bieber. Selena, she was shot. That was so sad. I did watch the movie. I'm just how did we go from carnivore diet to talking about Madonna, Justin Bieber, Selena? What did I miss, guys? You're gonna have to catch me up here. Oh man, if you are looking at the comments on YouTube, this is hilarious. I see comments about Billy Bob Thornton. Oh man, I don't even want to know where we're going. Anyways, all right, guys. Well, if you guys have questions about nutrition, if you want to hop in on my CrossFit nutrition workshop, even if you're not a CrossFitter, but you're interested in my method for doing things, I will definitely be open to having you in our workshop. Kenneth asked me, how did the open for you? Okay, so this is good. I'll end on this. All right. So the way I did the open was this. So I did actually post on my Instagram stories today. This week, I should be doing a gains train update soon. I went to my primary care provider. It was my first time seeing him since my follow up after the hospital, which was around December time. So it's been about 3 months. My blood pressure is back to normal again. He wants to run new lab tests because this is crazy, guys. I had this test done and I had to pay a lot of money for it. And this is crazy. It was like a saliva adrenal test. And I had to like take a saliva test every couple of hours so they can check my cortisol levels. So there was some kind of an issue with the lab and like there was a data breach and like all the lab tests had to be thrown away and had to be redone. So I have to redo the saliva test. Anyway, so he's running a bunch of new lab tests on me just to see where all of my blood biomarkers are, my hormones, because everything was really bad when I last year, like between freaking like somewhere between August and December, my health just took a huge dip. And that's really affected my life in a lot of ways. And I've been talking about it a lot of my gains train. Um, I lost weight last year, like not intentionally. There's between the shoulder surgery, between something going on in my body, like I'm literally burning so many calories. And it's not a bad problem to have if you like to eat, but like my body's just I look lean. It's great, but I also feel I'm very insecure right now in my body. But um anyway, so how did the open go for me? I'm proud of myself for doing it. I didn't perform. I performed the way that I would have expected to, a little bit better than I thought I would have on the last workout. But like I said, my body's just like still fighting and I still can't do some movements. So on workout 24.2, I had to take a 40. I couldn't do a double under, just would have been too much on my hamstring and my ankle. I would have set myself back pretty significantly and I am actually able to lift again. So I wasn't going to risk it for that. I did qualify to move on for the quarterfinals. I don't know that I'm going to do the quarterfinals. Just because it's hard to do that, and just personally, I want y'all to understand, like, when I went into 2023 and I made the decision to have shoulder surgery, my plan was I'm having shoulder surgery and I'm going to crush 2024. This is going to be my year where I am like, because I was before that shoulder surgery, things were great. Like I was really in a good spot. My goal was I honestly wanted to try and win in the 35 to 39 division. Like that was my goal. And now it doesn't look like that's going to happen, because it just there's no way that my body is going to be able to handle what it needs to be able to handle. So I've had to really learn how to modify my workouts, and that's hard for me. So as much as I could go on to the quarterfinals and do that, I know that competitively, like it was hard for me not to want to redo the open workouts because it's just you're a competitor. But I'm making a lot of training making a lot of progress in my training and with my body. And it's something important to talk about is, you know, it's hard for people to understand if you've never been an athlete, what it feels like to not train the way you're used to training. And it can be depressing. And I have been going through a lot with that, because I was so used to going into the gym and like it was like I have to get my mind ready, I have to get focused, I have to snatch as heavy as possible. Like everything was like so like about like making it like every 1%. And now it's like I have to go to the gym and be like, what does my body feel like it's able to handle today? Can I go heavy today? Nope. Do I have it's a lot of 70% work because I'm not willing to risk hurting myself until I get a clean bill of health. And so to answer your question long, I don't know for sure that I'm going to go on. It's something that is heavy on my heart. I think that though, being realistic with where my body's at, I'm still on the gains train. I'm up about almost 3 pounds in about 2.5 months, which is a good rate of growth. So I just would like to be about 130 pounds again. And before I kind of start competing again, I just think that the stress on my body right now would be too much. Like it's still hard to load myself too heavy. I just don't feel, I feel fragile and that's not a good place to feel. So that was my long story short story long, whatever you want to call it. So Kenneth, when I talk 70%, I mean by effort. I'm the same way. I don't do percentage work. I just because some days the longer you do CrossFit, the percentage work doesn't really do it. Like 70% one day might feel like 100%, just depending on what your workout was yesterday. So I really go by how my body feels, and I know what weights my body is comfortable with. So I have been able to push lower body a little bit more, which is making me excited. And my gymnastics is coming together. Shout out to everybody that does ring muscle ups in their garage because I've just figured out that I can actually do them in my garage. And man, I'm excited for that. So I can almost do everything at home. So, anyways, I know a little bit of a tangent, a little bit of a gains train update, but hopefully you guys got some value out of today's episode on carnivore. If y'all need anything from me, you know where to find me. And we will go from there. See y'all later.